Oh, I know. Well, thank you so much again, Heather. So I'm Annie Tindley. As you know, I'm a trustee and a member of the Natural History Society of Northumbria. And I wonder if you could just introduce yourself to everyone.
Yeah, so I'm Heather Devey. I run an ecotourism social enterprise called Intrigue with my partner, Kane Scrimger, and I work for the RSPB over at Haweswater, and I'm the Beaver project officer for Cumbria. Got a few hats.
No, that's a lot. That's a lot you've got going on. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to talk to us. This series is just sort of trying to capture, as it were, the social history of natural history in the region. So we're so pleased that you could join us. Thank you. So you've got lots of hats now. So where did it all start then, Heather? When did you first sort of start to get into natural history and the environment and the natural world?
I think that I've always, as with a lot of children really, you've always got this natural draw towards nature, but my mum really kind of drew that out in me. And I suppose she was my biggest inspiration growing up. She'd let me bring the strangest things to her. And then we'd try and find out together what they were. But then on from there, really, I just went and studied wildlife conservation in uni. And then it kind of went from there. I've gone on various different journeys from that point, I suppose, to try and find what I want to contribute to nature, I suppose. And Wild Intrigue in particular is where my heart really lies, I suppose.
Oh, wonderful. So was it? So it sounds like it was just a kind of natural curiosity about the world, and was it that passion that drove you to study it at university then?
I think it was, because I suppose you can read all that you can read in books, but I didn't actually have a mentor or anything like that a lot of naturalists have growing up. I didn't actually know that, to be honest, natural history was something that you could study and go on and work in. I thought it was just, nature around you. I didn't realize that you could work in it, and how exciting is that in itself?
Yeah.
So yeah, I went on to uni to try and find out a little bit more about what the world has to offer, I suppose, and went from there.
That's fun. And so where you grew up, was there lots of opportunities for studying nature and the environment then, or?
Well, I grew up in Hartlepool.
Right. Okay.
And it didn't feel like there was particularly lots at that time, but that's probably just where I was at that point in my life, I suppose. But there's all the exciting thing about nature I always find is that no matter where you are, you can always find nature. And I remember one of the first things that I heard growing up was the sound of herring gulls on the roofs in the back alley. It was just like, it would bring the call of the ocean into my bedroom, and that was so magical to me. And that's what got me hooked, actually, thinking about it. It was the call of the herring gull in my bedroom.
Oh, fantastic. That's amazing. I mean, it's interesting what you say about the role of mentors, because other folk I've been interviewing for this series have put a lot of stress on mentors, often teachers who, there are maths teachers or English teachers, but they had like maybe a school club, that kind of thing. And it's interesting that it's not always the case that kind of takes you through, but then, as you say, you go on these different journeys instead. To take you where
it's definitely something I think that's quite important. I can imagine how much that would have developed me at an early stage to have that person, I suppose, that mentor. But there is an amazing group actually that I'll give a nod to, called A Focus on Nature, or AFON for short, and they have a brilliant mentorship program for young people who are interested in getting into nature, and they've got different hubs around the UK, so that's worthwhile looking into if anybody's watching who might be interested in learning more about wildlife.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks. Yeah, that's amazing. So and so when you got to university, how did you find the sort of, as it were, the academic study of wildlife conservation next to your experience, and what did it sort of change your views or the next directions that you took? Or
I think I'm quite nerdy as it happens. I really love the study side of it. I could quite happily, it sounds really bad, but I could quite happily sit inside with my windows open, hearing the bird song, and read solidly about a particular subject. I remember doing that with the Scottish wildcat in particular, and reading about its genetics and its history and its ins and outs. And I think that's what university opened up to me, that it's not just the species itself and the history that we're familiar with. There's just all sorts more to discover, like genetic issues and things like that. So it enhanced my curiosity, I think.
That's amazing. And so with that study, were you mainly focusing on UK wildlife conservation, or was it more of a kind of international perspective you were getting?
It was primarily UK based, that particular one. But we did go out to the Gambia and had a look at the kind of socio-economic impacts of the wildlife tourism industry and the fishing industry and things like that, of course, which can be applied here, which is applied here, but it was mainly UK based, and it's the UK wildlife that I'm most passionate about. Obviously, there's incredible wildlife in Canada and lots of places I'd love to go personally, but it's what we have here and what we could have here that is just so exciting.
That is exciting. So I've got so many questions. I'll start back. So when you finished your degree, take us through what you did next after that.
So I finished my degree, and to be honest, I had no money at the time. So I went straight into a job housekeeping on Herm Island in the Channel Islands, just randomly, but it was beautiful. The bird life was unreal, and that's kind of what drew me there. But then I went into a job as an ecological consultant because I'd done, bat surveying and things during university, and then I was trained up as an ecologist. And this obviously isn't everybody's experience, but for me, that did not fit what I wanted to achieve with regards to natural history, I suppose. So I left the job and thought, well, what do I want to do? And I sat in a wood one day and I thought, so what is it that I want to do? And it was 3 words. I want to inspire people, I want to educate people about wildlife, and I want to rewild people using our amazing, particularly northern wildlife. And that's where Wild Intrigue came from. So Wild Intrigue established, and then from there I've had other jobs, forest ranger roles and different roles with the RSPB. I've worked at Salt Home, and now work at Beautiful Haweswater. And now I'm Beaver project officer for Cumbria, of course.
Excellent. So tell us a bit more about Wild Intrigue then, and to the 3 aims. I love the idea of you sitting and reflecting and really kind of sparking around that rewilding element and education and inspiring. So tell us a bit more about Wild Intrigue.
So when I was in the woods thinking, so why do I feel so kind of flattened by the work that I'm doing? I realized because when I was growing up, what drew me to nature was just the enchantment of it. It's just the most, and I can hear the birds out my window now, and it's like luring me outside. And that's exactly what I wanted to bring to people, the enchantment, because there's so much, there's climate anxiety and there's biodiversity crisis. These are terms that we constantly hear, rightly so, because there are issues, but the enchantment for nature is kind of dwindling, I feel, within that. So with Wild Intrigue, I wanted to bring that back. So initially I worked with schools, and then my partner Kane came on board, and we just grew it from there. So initially we were hosting expeditions, as we called them, on the Isle of Carna and up on the Banff estate, where there's beavers.
Oh yes.
And we'd train people in camera trapping and bat detecting and moth trapping and all sorts of lovely things like that. But we realised that the people who were joining, they were already naturalists. They already were drawn out into nature.
Yeah. So
we wanted to adapt who we were bringing out. We wanted to bring, little me's out into nature, basically, who didn't know what was going on. So we thought, well, what does everybody love? And everybody loves pizza. Not just nature.
That's the word I was thinking you were going to say.
It's true. So we thought, right, well, we'll do a bats and pizza night. And that was our first mini exped. And now they've developed into kittiwakes and donut safaris, moths and muffin mornings, bats and brownie nights, all sorts of great things like that, which is bringing new people out into nature, which is what it's all about. And we're so happy about that.
That is amazing. And so tell me, what kind of impact has the lockdown had on Wild Intrigue? And just, I wonder, anything you've noticed about people's reactions to nature once the lockdown kind of kicked in, whether there was any changes there?
I think absolutely. Because people were grounded, they were having to find their own little sources of magic. We couldn't go to the cinema, we couldn't go out to restaurants or go shopping, things like that. So we had to find our own magic and excitement. And then nature showed itself to a lot of people. I think people's eyes were really opened. So we were getting quite a few more inquiries from people on social media. What is this that I found in my garden? And, to us, it might be quite a common species, but to whoever sent it, it's this whole new world that they've discovered during lockdown. And that's been wonderful. So we obviously had to cancel a lot of our events last year. We were able to host a few, but instead we've took it online. So we've really upped our social media game. And we host monthly live chats called Northwatch, a little bit cheeky. Because people are wanting new faces, just like we are today, new faces in their rooms, and to bring their enchantment into their homes a little bit still. So people's interest and passion for nature just seems to have grown, and we really need to hold on to that and encourage it.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. I mean, have you found it? I mean, that's amazing, moving online and being out when you can, but I'm assuming you just can't wait to get back out there when you're allowed.
We're so excited. We have so many events booked in already, and that's another thing, actually. Loads of them are getting booked up, which shows in itself, despite the uncertainty, people are, not just us, so many people are keen to get back out there doing things in nature. But there's loads of places that I want to get back to personally.
Do you have a favourite place in the Northeast for nature watching or just being out?
I actually quite like, I guess because I grew up in Hartlepool, I quite like urban nature spots. I like that juxtaposition. So I really love tracking down different wildlife in Ouseburn, because there's so much there. It's the best hub for urban nature. And along the quayside, when the kittiwakes come back, and I really hope that we can get out to see the kittiwakes this year, because we couldn't last year. And just along the beautiful Northumberland coast, just for all of the bird life. I love it.
Yeah, are birds your kind of passion out of all, or are you sort of, I shouldn't ask you that because you're in charge of beavers now too, but
it's actually, I kind of leave the birds largely to Kane. I love birds, and there's particular species, the kittiwakes in particular, that are really close to my heart, but I'm a bit more of a mammal girl personally. Don't tell him.
Oh no, this is top secret, don't worry. Well, I wonder if you could tell us a bit more about the Beavers project then, and what work you're doing there in Cumbria.
Yeah, so it's with the Cumbria Beaver Group, which is a multi-partner group with RSPB, Cumbria Wildlife Trust, Eden Rivers Trust, and the Lowther Estate, but working with loads of others. And the Lowther Estate was the first site last year to be licensed an enclosed trial release of beavers from Natural England. And last summer we brought a pair to the site, so there is a male and a female there in Cumbria now. There's beavers in Cumbria. Brilliant. They're enclosed, of course, and we are encouraging free living beavers with appropriate management in time, which would be incredible, because the benefits beavers bring, I could go on about them for days.
Evangelizing about the beavers. Yeah,
we will have them one day. I can't wait until we can get them in the Northeast at some point. How brilliant that would be.
Is it just kind of convincing local authorities and farmers and communities. I mean, where we used to live, we moved down to Newcastle about 4 years ago, but we lived in Stirlingshire, and just over the county border in Perthshire there were beavers, and we went on like a kind of trip, I guess a bit like you and Kane would organise to view the beavers and hear about them and learn about them. So it's brilliant to see them starting to come into the north of England as well.
It really is, yeah. I mean, the tay population in Perthshire, obviously that's had quite a lot of controversy because they weren't legally introduced, I suppose.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the point of the Cumbria Beaver Group and any other people that I speak to. It's assuring people that we'd only have them back with the right management. So where beavers build dams that can pool water behind, which could of course flood low-lying farmland. But there's mitigation. You can install flow devices to alter the height of water. There's ways that we can definitely live alongside beavers. Yeah. We just need to learn about it again.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Oh, I hope they're settling in, and I hope that they do come to the northeast sooner rather than later.
Me too.
I know. I know. Well, I wonder if I can ask a last question, which would be, what advice would you have for anyone who would like to be getting into the environment, natural history now? Was there any kind of top tips you'd give them?
I think the key, because it can be quite daunting to begin with. When you look at the Collins Bird Guide or the Fungi Guide, it can be quite daunting, and you think, how could I ever know all of this? But the point of nature is that you don't need to know all of it. You just need to go out, start looking at things that you enjoy, and then maybe get a picture on your phone and find out what it is at home if you want to. But the most important thing, it's it's important to know the names of species if you're going into the job. But if you're just passionate about wildlife, just get out into nature and reap the benefits of nature out there. It's brilliant for mental health and for our own well-being. And I'd just say, just go out, just get your boots on and go out and start discovering, really, and it'll blossom from there.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And just reflecting back on something you said earlier around that, there's so much kind of anxiety attached to environmental issues and climate issues and worries that people have. And, actually there can't be a stronger message than the one you just gave, which is just go out, just absorb it, listen to the birds, and kind of reap the benefits. But yeah, thank you so much, Heather. That was wonderful. I'm sure we'll be looking forward to hearing more about all your different projects and Wild Intrigue getting back out, once the lockdown starts to ease, and hopefully that, like you say, that increase in interest and engagement that people have really shown since the lockdown will continue and really push that forward.
Well, we're always there to help support people in that journey, so do get in touch.
They will. Thanks so much, Heather. That was absolutely fantastic.